we can start.
All right, you're good to go.
I see Kateri's here with us as well.
She is. She can unmute herself if she wants to.
Okay. And I saw Eric before, so I assume, yep, he's still there.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Eric. So,
Hello, am I unmuted now?
you are.
Oh, good. I don't know what's the matter with my picture. You know, I've got my camera on, you know, whatever, but it's just not.
You may have to click, if you click up in the right-hand corner,
Yeah.
it gives you an option to mute my audio, stop the video, or start the video.
Where's that?
It's in the, if you go up to your picture and you go up and there's a mute button and then there's 3 dots on the right,
Yes.
click the 3 dots
Okay.
and then it gives you a drop down.
Oh, so what do I want to do? I want to start video?
Yep.
Okay. So why is it not starting? Cannot start video.
Oh, well, there you go.
Failed to start. Please select another video camera in setting. Well, I've only got one video camera. Sorry, folks.
All right, well, at least we know you're here.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So Kurt, why don't you start with giving us an update on the perk test that was done out at the transfer station?
Oh, sure. You know, it went surprisingly well. The good news is that the transfer station can handle an enormous amount of flow. The initial estimate by the engineers was that they had kind of anticipated we use about 20 gallons of water, 20,000 gallons of water over the 3-day period. So, you know, an initial infiltration, and then, you know, what they were going to be using for, you know, for the test itself. We had to keep the water truck on overnight on Wednesday because it was absorbing so much water. I think we used close to 24,000 gallons in the first day. I didn't get the report on what the total numbers were, but they basically had no issues with the hydrant setup. You know, and moving the water back and forth. They got the infiltration ring, all the on-site particulars. The DPW did a great job, like really outstanding job of helping out. So DEP officials showed up on both Wednesday and Thursday to observe the tests, but everything couldn't have gone better from our perspective.
Okay. So, Kateri, for your information, this was about the testing that was to be done for the potential for siting a wastewater treatment plant.
Right. Yeah, I missed the discussion of that before. Right.
Yeah, so DEP wanted us to go through an exercise of determining how much flow the soil structures there could absorb for the purpose of siting a facility. And literally it was about double what we had thought. So if we need to put a wastewater treatment facility out there, it would be, you know, from all appearances, it looks like it'd be a great location.
Okay.
Okay. And there were no problems with the fire hydrants, I take it?
No, basically Scott Nolan, who was the guy who was running the water back and forth, literally had to turn the hydrant down to probably a little, you know, just barely cracking the valve because the flow was so strong. And he was able to fill up his truck. It was a 2,000 gallon truck, but he was able to fill up in about 10 minutes.
That's great.
Yep. Yeah, it went great.
Okay. All right. The next item on our agenda here is the water meter update. Anything, Eric, to report?
I do. I just didn't know if we wanted to propose a switch on agenda items. I noticed Jonathan Hobel's on the line regarding the PFAS testing. And I just, I had a couple of items I wanted to discuss related to the water meter. So I didn't know if it was worth switching those two items or not.
That's perfectly fine. If Jonathan, if you're ready to talk to us about it. We have to unmute you first.
This is
Okay,
my third Zoom call today, I think. I don't know, they all run together. So I use a picture that my niece took from her back door of a bear eating the bird feeder as my background.
Yeah, I wondered what that was all about.
Yeah, so the bear's got his face in the bird feeder and it was up against their sliders. I'm not sure, it's winter outside, you can see snow. I'm not sure when that was exactly taken, but anyway. So as you may know, the regulations that we've been proposing for about a year took effect on October 2nd. And they require all PWSs to be on a sampling schedule to come in for their first rounds of analysis. And you are probably the smallest community system I have that actually has is really a distribution system with individual customers. We do have some larger buildings but definitely one of the smallest ones that you're working on. So your requirement wouldn't happen until October 1st, 2021. So you wouldn't have to do that until then. But the legislature gave us a bucket of money to spend on certain things, one of which is sampling of both private and public wells. Another was for a grant program to allow for grants for people to do design treatment. We've already done one round of that. We were only going to do one round, but it was so successful, and we couldn't get everybody in that wanted one. So we're going to probably do another round with that money. And the third thing that was done was to buy down SRF loans to 0% for as long as that money lasts. It may only be a year, maybe, for PFAS treatment. So that would be at 0% if you need treatment. So what we're doing, I'm reaching out to virtually all the publicly owned public water supplies in the region. I want to kind of spend as much money in the region as I can and try to get as much of that money to our folks as we can. What we would do is sample all the entry points, which are the compliance points for the PFAS analysis or the MCL. If there were multiple wells going into that entry point, we sample in each individual well also. We wouldn't sample it. We're going to send you the kit to sample, to sample and analyze the samples. So that way you would know if there was one well that was higher than another and you had to blending, to get down to the 20 nanograms per liter of MCL, you could do that. So we want to try to give everybody as much information as possible with this money. So that's what we've been doing. Matter of fact, I just got done with the letter from Provincetown. They signed up. They have done some initial work, and they came back all non-detect. The only places where I'm seeing non-detects is out the outer Cape. To tell you the truth, Harwich did around. They came back non-detect. Dennis is pretty good. I've talked to everybody there. Owen did a round that was non-detect, but the detection limit wasn't low enough to be used. This analysis can be used to grandfather requirements in the future for this. We've had some QA/QC problems with the lab. If it comes back and doesn't pass our QA/QC, we'll run another set of samples. That's we just keep it going until it all passes, and it can be grandfathered for one of your sampling rounds that be required. So the way it works is, you let us know that you want to go forward with this. We would write you a letter telling you what we're going to sample, and then we do up a work order. The disadvantage of this, to be honest with you, is that if you find PFAS at a significant level, and it was over 20 or even a little bit lower than 20, and it wasn't reliably below 20, we would be asking you to start your sampling earlier than you would be required to otherwise. The one advantage is that if you did have to have PFAS, that the round of the grants would be, is probably going to be announced soon, that we're doing the second round. And you would know if you needed to apply for one of those grants that we're offering for design. So we want to make sure that everybody's on board. I assume that the Water Commission is a separate entity from the town government, pretty much. That, you know, you run as a separate entity from, you're not governed by the town manager or anything like that, or not? Just,
Well, we don't enter into contracts ourselves.
okay,
The Water Commission doesn't. I mean, anything that is for the town would be signed off on by the town administrator, but in a case like this, we would make the recommendation, you know, to either to sign on to it. And since it does not, for the testing alone, I mean, that would not require
well,
the town approval.
okay. Well, we like to get everybody to acknowledge that there is a downside to this, which would be, you know, potentially doing public education and public notice. That we did, not this region, but we did run into a problem in another region where, you know, the Water Department or Water Commission signed up for this, and then the powers that be didn't like it, and they, yeah, it was a difficult situation for them. It was a bad situation for everybody, and had to work our way through. We're trying to avoid that. So if we could get an email also from the town manager that he understands and wants to go forward with this, you know, that's what we're asking for, to make sure that everybody understands that there are some downsides. So again, I think you will be one of the few towns that comes back as non-detect. What we're seeing, if we don't have a source, you know, like in Hyannis, and I've been working with the folks in Hyannis for about 10 years on this. Excuse me. That the coarser soils where you have higher velocities, the Cape, the islands, and the Plymouth Carver aquifer, you know, you have good thick aquifers, big sand. It tends to wash out. Plymouth had one well at about 2 out of their 10. There was some low-level hits in Buzzards Bay Water District. We haven't seen anything in the co-op wells, which were in Sandwich. They haven't sampled yet. Katuitt, Calm, they came back good. I'm just thinking who else we did in that area. And we've seen some data off Martha's Vineyard that came back good, you know, basically under 5, easily under 5. There's some, we did get a few below 10 in Nantucket. It's away from the airport. We think there's some other things going on there that we're investigating on the need why they have theirs, and that's the one comment constant one. So we're knocking them off in the region. We are seeing problems up in the tighter soils. As somebody used to work with, said the glaciers were not kind to those areas. For one of the reasons you just had the meeting I popped in on was for wastewater disposal too. So Easton, Mansfield, you know, those areas we're seeing some stuff. Foxborough, we're working on with some other towns. Hingham has got some problems there. Abington, Rockland, Cohasset, you know. So the history has been that down the Cape, it's comes back non-detected. One of the few areas that I think we'll see in the States is non-detected. That's the sales pitch. Any other questions or anything else, you know, you can do? Like,
So if I have a question on that.
Sure.
I didn't quite understand it when I read through the regulation. So if we come back with a non-detect, what's the frequency that testing we would have to do in the
well,
future?
and I haven't reread the regulations. It's my understanding that if you come back with the first year is quarterly, everybody gets set up for quarterly. You come back with 2 non-detects and everything, you can ask for a waiver from finishing out the other 2 quarters. And then you can apply for various waivers similar to like the VOCs. You can apply for, you know, long-term or short-term waivers from the stuff. And, you know, we take all the data, we take the regional data that we find. And again, you're looking at the data that I've seen. You would probably come back non-detect. You know, still don't have data from Chatham. I've been talking to them. Booster, well, yeah, Orleans, they just signed on. Eastham did sign on. They did just recently, and had the samples come back for them yet. But anyway,
Jonathan, I have a question
Sure.
too. I mean, it was sort of following up a little bit on Jim's question, but we don't really have known sources that we're that concerned about. I mean, the transfer station is down gradient of all of our wells. And is a long distance away. That would be probably one of the areas of concern. And so, you know, given Wellfleet's rural character, it's high. You know, I would imagine we'd be non-detect. And when we're discussing it as a board, I mean, one of the things we'd like to do is to be able to show in our annual water report that we are non-detect. And so to maintain that status and to maintain the knowledge. So for us, you know, I guess, is there a cost concern that, like, for example, if we were non-detect, that we could still go ahead and get tested annually or more often than the regulations require?
well, this money runs out. If we don't spend it by June 30th, it runs out in the fiscal year and it gets pulled back. So this is kind of a one-time deal. I did have the leash to actually get people a lot more analysis in the one round. I'm only now allowed to offer one round. I think initially we thought we wouldn't spend down the money, and I was allowed to get other rounds for people too, that especially those that have problems that are on quarterly or potentially monthly sampling. So if we do a round now, and if we get close to the end of the period, I could probably, you know, sneak in other rounds as people request them. You know, if the money wasn't spent. I'm surprised we still had the money. And I mean, I thought it would be pulled back based upon the budgetary pressures that everybody is feeling. And I was on a phone call with Norton today, and they talked about, you know, this isn't a good time to bring a set of regs out. I know it's that everybody's budget's tight, and you know, samples are about $300 each. You know, so that's the next rounds are going to be on the other folks. And so it's just not a good timing with that. But I started working on these regs back in December of last year. You know, commenting on them and doing that, and then it just wound its way through the regulatory process until they were finally promulgated in October. So that's unfortunately no. I mean, I was able to sneak some early rounds in, but I get pulled back to do that. I like to spend money in the region. I like to get people, you know, give people the ability to take the money if it's out there on the, you know, on the plate.
So if I understand, it would be this program would be able to cover the initial year, and then going forward, it would be either up to us whether we had to test, or if we were in a non-detect status, we could ask for waivers.
Yeah, you have to do 2 rounds. The initial sampling, you need to do 2 quarters. So this could substitute for one of those quarters. You know, we make sure all the data pass and the like, and then you'd be on your own for the rest of the new rule.
And so going forward, if we're in a non-detect, you said it's about $300 to do the test, but would we be required every year to then continue to test, or how's that work?
To be honest, we're still working out how the waiver program is working. We have weekly meetings to discuss the implementation of the regs. You know, there were some questions that I had early on, and I couldn't get a copy of the draft regs until about a week before they were released, even though, you know, I commented on them. I go, look, I just want to know what's going on so I can kind of advise people that this is the way I think it's working out. And for some reason, they were pretty secretive about these regs, because I would have asked some of these questions early on. And like I said, we're still working on that. I honestly, because that is so far down the line for me for the waivers, I'm focusing on the initial sampling rounds and getting this work done.
Okay,
So well, Jim, I think you're the chairman of the Water Commission.
Right.
So if I can get an email from you and if the town manager would make my life easier as I bubble these up, saying that you want to participate, that'd be great. And then, we'll send out a letter that kind of tells you exactly what we're doing and which wells and which entry points we're going to be doing, and do a full round to get you the sample containers. Somebody has to collect the samples. There's a video that we have online to collect them. I think it's been kind of overblown, the difficulty of this. You have to do a little bit more than usual because PFAS is everywhere. I've seen some initial USGS data on some rivers, and it's just not pretty. But as long as you take the precautions, I have not seen any of the samples that come back bad, and there's a blank with every group of samples, so that field blank, so that if there's any cross contamination. And out of all the data that we've collected, I've only seen one set of samples that's suspect because of cross contamination.
I think that regardless, we're going to have to do this anyway, so there's no reason to delay it. So I would ask for a motion for a recommendation to town administrator that we would go ahead with signing up to participate in this project.
so moved.
Second,
Okay, then we'll take a vote on it. Is Neil still with us?
I vote yes.
Okay, and Katri, you're
yes.
Kurt?
Yes,
And I'm a yes, okay. So we're all in favor of this at this point, so I will get an email off to you and we'll get the town administrator on
Okay.
board as well.
Great. So probably, tomorrow's a holiday for us, so if you get that to me, we can get a letter out next week. Just to let you know, the delivery and pickup of samples, whether it be through courier or whether it be through FedEx, is all included in our cost too. All you gotta do is take some ice and then the time to take the samples. So it's pretty a comprehensive program.
Eric, is that something that you can help us with in terms of the sampling?
Of course, we're collecting other samples, as Jonathan mentioned, Eastham, other areas. So our team has done some preliminary training on it, and I think we're well positioned to it. And worst case scenario, if it can't be combined with other efforts that we already have, we might be talking an hour or two of billable time for Mike, but that's probably worst case scenario.
Okay. All right, well, Jonathan, thank you very much.
Well, thank you for moving your agenda around. I appreciate it, and have yourselves a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
thanks, Jonathan.
So, okay, Eric, you can, if you want to pick up from there and.
Sure, absolutely. So in preparation for the meeting today, I've been fortunate to have what I think are a few really good conversations regarding the meters. And as everyone on the board knows, I haven't been involved that long and don't know all their history. But between researching files at my disposal, having a good discussion with the Mueller rep specifically, and getting a little bit of background from Rebecca, I feel like I've gotten up to speed on things. And I thought I might just take a couple of minutes to kind of lay things out on where I'm at. And then anyone can feel free to correct me if I'm off base on any of this. But it's, essentially what kind of came together here is that we had a perception that Mueller wasn't going to be able to support the meters in town. And there was some communication issues with the Mueller rep and a few other things. And it kind of created some doubt on which way ultimately we should be going. And we are using Neptune meters in Eastham. They're a good meter. There's some technological benefits and different things there as well. I mean, we use Neptune meters in other areas as well. But we just I tried to, as in preparation for the meeting, just understand the situation to the best of my ability. And from my understanding is funds have been appropriated at town meeting in and around September to potentially do a full meter replacement with Neptune meters throughout the entire town. Am I correct on that?
It was not brought to town meeting. This was
Oh.
just, it was something that was discussed with the water commissioners. That we would, at that time, when Russ was with us, we were talking about establishing a payback period over a few years
Yep.
for the full cost of it. And bringing that in, paying for it through the enterprise fund over that period of time.
That's
So-
my fault. I actually told him because I thought when you asked for the Briar Lane expansion, you upped the amount of money that you asked for so that it would help pay for the Neptunes. Is that not, I misunderstood that?
Well, the issue there was that in talking with the former town administrator, he was of the opinion that we could not change the scope of the use of those funds that we were asking for from Mass Works.
Okay,
That's so, that was not something that we could, although, I mean, I think if we're so fortunate as to get funds through Mass Works, there's always the opportunity that we can tell them that we are hoping to use some of this to change out the meters.
Okay, I mean, no worries. Like, what was presented by Russ, I would still stand behind. And, all the pricing and everything else that was in play. And that is definitely one approach and one good approach, potentially to retrofit all the meters in town. So we have that on the table. But as a pause and maybe a second look at the Mueller option, I had a good discussion with the rep today. You have the existing meters that are already in play. And what the Mueller rep told me today and confirmed in a couple of emails, one to myself and one to Rebecca, is that they are not going to support the reader equipment related to the old meters. Essentially, the readers right there that connect to the meters for the system to collect data from. If one fails today, they would provide you one under warranty and until they run out. But if we need a brand new meter tomorrow and we're buying a Mueller meter, they're going to send us a new style reader and it would not be compatible with the current reading software and technology. So that's where we run into an issue here. But, for what sounds like a reasonable cost, we could get the updated Mueller technology and software, and the new technology and software will read the old meters and it will read the new meters. So the capital associated with it is whatever new meters you're already going to buy, and then the software and the new reader that reads the old meters and the new meters. And the meters themselves are the same. It's just the reading technology that they're upgrading. So I don't know how clearly that was presented in the past. That's what I was told today. And I just think it provides another option to the town that has it's a lot less of an ask regarding a spend. You can continue to use Mueller meters in town. You will ultimately have to upgrade the reading software and the technology that's there, but not all that dissimilar to what Whitewater's already proposed. We would be willing to work with the town and amortize that over a period of time to that cost. And I received a quote today that puts that budgetary cost at about $15,000 for the new equipment to read the old meters and the new meters going forward. So again, it's another option on the table and just an opportunity to kind of pause and just think what is going to be best for the town short term and longer term here. And I think what was previously put together and submitted was a good option for the town, and it involves replacing all of the meters and things like that. But there is another option on the table based on the information that I know right now.
Okay, Eric, a question on that. How does this, how would this impact on the billing that was currently being done by Penachuk?
So there was a potential advantage, a couple advantages potentially to swapping out with Neptune. You know, there's some technology advantages with the Neptune meter and with Penachuk and the ability to read that. You know, they're using Neptune in other places. There's a potential advantage for streamlining there. And what I wanted to do was have a call with the Mueller rep next week with at least myself, Rebecca, who's kind of really done the billing and knows she isn't doing it now, and anybody else from the board who would like to be involved in that, to just answer some of the questions and try to see if we can get some clarity on whether the new system and the new technology and software has some improvements that over what's been out there before. Because, you know, Rebecca was pretty clear in that, you know, there's some challenges with that and file conversions, and not that, you know, we're already doing it. It can be done, but ideally we would be streamlining that for everyone involved, whether it's the town, whether it's Penachuk. I think there's some potential advantages. So I'd like to have that conversation with Mueller and get some clarity on that.
The reason that I asked that is because when we originally went over to Penachuk for the billing, it required them to build a quote bridge between the reading software we had with Mueller and their system that I believe was compatible with the Neptune meters. And that was fairly expensive for us. Rebecca, do you recall what the total amount was on that?
I don't, but I can look it up.
I remember seeing the charges on some of the interim financial reports, and it was significant. And, you know, I want to say that it was well into the $30,000 to $40,000.
To switch to the Neptune?
No, to switch to Penachuk.
Yes, you're correct.
So I wonder whether or not there would be additional changes that would have to be made with this new reader package, you know, that in order for Penachuk to be able to continue to do the billing.
Well, maybe it is worth us having a Zoom meeting with a representative from Mueller, because if we can save the town money and money out of the water budget, just to kind of see if they can, because honestly, to do the water reads as they are right now, I told Eric earlier, it's horrible. Just to get the read file into the reader itself, and then get the read file into a DAT file and send the DAT file up to Penachuk. You know, if the new reader for Mueller is easier to understand and maybe to do, we might not have to work with Penachuk for longer. If it's easy enough, I can go back to doing the billing, and that would save you even more money. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think it's worth a conversation if you guys feel that might be a good idea.
The other, I think it is, I mean, it's definitely worth exploring. The other question I would have is, what's the difference in cost between a Mueller meter and a Neptune meter? You know, because the total cost also matters. Total capital cost.
Very good question.
And then going forward, what that difference is going to look like.
Right. I mean, you have the price right now, and we can break it out in a more individual manner to help improve the clarity on it. But to replace, I think, 300 meters with the work and the labor and all the different components, I think, which is what was previously provided. But just, you know, going forward, theoretically, you have meters in town that are functioning well at this point. And as meters fail, it would appear that we can swap those out with Mueller meters. And even at this point, if the If the meter goes bad, but the reader is still good, no need to make any corrections there. If the reader fails right now, Mueller's going to stand behind warrantying it through the warranty period. After that, we're looking at having to put the new readers on and things like that. It would seem at the surface like there would be savings in sticking with Mueller and just purchasing the upgraded software and equipment. But I really wanted the board to just, have any additional facts that were known to just try to figure out what's the best opportunity, short term and longer term here for the town. And I think that's just my goal. So.
Well, I think what Jim's alluding to is if it's less expensive to switch to the Neptune for meter reading, and it provides an opportunity where Rebecca could either, read, do the reading, or it simplifies the process, that's clearly an advantage. But if the difference in cost, if the Neptune meter is significantly more expensive, it may not make sense. And especially as we going, not just replacing our current meters, but then going forward, it may not make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca, I'm concerned about what you're suggesting here is that you could possibly then be responsible for taking back the billing, and that we wouldn't be using Penachuk anymore for that.
Right. I mean, that depends on our meeting with Mueller, and if their new radio system is a lot easier to understand and to kind of work with than the current one, absolutely. I could absolutely figure it out and do it. It just depends on how he presents the newer system versus the one we have right now. Because I remember before we got Penachuk, Joe Powers and I did a billing cycle, and it took us about 2 weeks to figure out how to get files into certain read files. And,
Right.
it is what it is. But if this new system that they have, which I'm going to assume that it's better for obvious reasons, they upgraded it. So there were obviously kinks to work out. I'd be more than happy to. I actually enjoy it. I love doing the deferred payments. And now that I kind of have a schedule and like a routine of, now that I know all the water customers, it's a lot easier for me to figure it out if the system is easier to use.
Yeah.
You've now developed a personal relationship with them.
I know all of them quite well.
On a first name basis, right?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
But I think the idea of having that meeting with them to get more information is really good. And I'm wondering, Kurt, whether or not you'd be willing to represent us with Eric and Rebecca on that.
Sure.
Again, my ask today was just in the best interest of everyone involved, was just a pause to gather a few more facts and just look at it from a few different angles, fresh set of eyes, and just try to make the best decision for the town going forward here, short term and long term.
Right, understood. So, I think, in my opinion, let's go forward and get more information.
All right, I'll set that up with them, and then Kurt, I'll touch base with you as far as your schedule goes.
Sure.
Great. All right, is there anything, Eric, to talk about with respect to the response to DEP with respect to the E. coli event?
I don't believe so at this point. I believe the only action item that I know of right now from Mass DEP is what our flushing program, as a result of this situation, is going to be going forward. And even that, it's kind of like potentially a two-phased one. It's as the system's presently configured with Boy Scout as the primary, and then looking at with Coles Neck grist mill online, and if and how that might change the flushing protocol. But having those both in play, clearly memorialized in print, and everyone knows what the actions are that go along with it. That's our only really big ask at that point. It's a reasonable ask. There's probably versions of it that have been done over the years, but I think it's just a good opportunity to update it and everything else. So that's what myself and the ops group is going to be working on. Other than that, our compliance and operations support group, I think we've done everything that's been asked of us so far, and I don't think we've really heard anything else significant back from DEP at this time, so.
Any comments or questions on that?
Mm-mm.
No, the only question is, do we have any other lingering issues, from the incident in terms of anything else that we need to do, emergency response wise or otherwise?
I don't believe so. I do think when something like this happens, obviously we get an opportunity to take a look at ERP plans and some of the items that were noted in the level 2, particularly one item that we had proposed was a chemical addition at the well point, which is a good option as well for putting it right into the system. And also really looking at the supplemental injection point at the water tank that definitely could have some improvements made to it. We hope it's never needed, but realistically, it is probably needed to some degree anyway, whether it be, annually when the seasons change and things like that, adding a small amount sodium hypochlorite to the tank before the tank does its flip, just like a lake would, is a good idea. And it helps not so much from the E. coli standpoint, more from just small TC hits and things like that. And we're going to be talking about probably a tank cleaning and an inspection sometime in and around the spring. And with that, the team might do some chlorination in conjunction with what they're doing. And we just want to have some of that stuff, in place and working as it should.
Right.
The temporary chlorination that we did at the water tank was absolutely that. I mean, it was a very crude setup that's there, and it worked, and it did exactly what we needed it to do. But I think a longer term approach on the pump, the setup, the annual testing, and ideally something to be able to do flow pacing, because that was like the biggest challenge. With the time of year that happened, and the demand on the water system, it just wasn't filling up very frequently. So we wouldn't have wanted to have a pump just sitting there feeding sodium hypochlorite, because when it eventually did pull into the system, you'd get some pretty high residuals, especially for that first section of the system after the tank. So what the ops group did is they fed that while they were pumping from Boy Scout to blend it. And it was a great approach, and I think it worked well. And whatever pump that we have in place, particularly at the water tower, we would ideally want that to be in a little bit more automated fashion, so someone didn't have to stand there, But there's also, I'm sorry, there's also an option to inject at the wells potentially.
So what I was going to ask is, does the SCADA system have anything to do with this?
The proposed SCADA related to Gristmill, Coles Neck, I don't believe so.
Okay.
You're just talking, Eric, about an automatic feed system.
Yeah, just something that's going to give us a
Yeah.
signal that when those Boy Scout pumps are running and filling the water tank, when either of them are running, that we're able to pace that chlorine at that point. It's getting the signal to turn on. Manual speed and stroke settings on the pump are fine, but just so that when that flow of water stops, the pump stops. Be pretty simple stuff, I think.
Is that something that could be programmed into the SCADA system is that a software issue or a hardware issue or both?
Could be potentially both. I think at the end of the day, I wouldn't expect it to be, a big cost, but I think it would be both. But you're talking about a GFI outlet, 120 volt outlet over to the pump, and then it's just picking up the signal somewhere there, potentially at the water tower or in the treatment plant at the Boy Scout well, which would be even easier.
Is this something we should bring up with Butch Nealon or not?
I think it's certainly worth the conversation to get his input on it. He knows the system well, and I could have John start that dialogue later this week on just as a result of the level 2, couple of things that we put forward to DEP. What would be your take and some just real maybe budgetary costs on it, so that the board can have those in their pocket going forward with budgeting.
I'm thinking of the fact that he's going to be starting work on that fairly soon, or has already, as to whether or not there's any, would be any benefit to making him aware of this as well.
I don't think it can hurt.
Okay.
And Rebecca, do you have anything left over in terms of emergency notification? Or are you all set now?
No, I'm good. I'm very good. I was
Okay.
unable to, however, find out about that. I wasn't able to get the information about the woman that you had asked me to check on for the E. coli. I don't have her name and no one responded to my original email. I can continue researching just to kind of put it out there for kind of good faith from the water commissioners. I don't have any problem, but I did want you to know that I did email and I didn't get anything back. So, but other
Okay.
than that, we have all the phone numbers and stuff up to date that is in Hillary's system. And we actually were very fortunate enough to get a lot of residents on the Code Red system as well, which not just necessarily for the water, but for other town emergencies. Because of Jim and I's phone call, a lot of people didn't know that that even existed. And so there were quite a few people that signed on to that Code Red for Wellfleet, which is huge. So,
Hmm.
and I wrote up my reports and sent them into Eric and they went into DEP. So, and I haven't heard anything since. So I think I did it right.
You did a great job. It really helped.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
It was a good team effort all the way across, everybody with the questions, the support, the understanding. Obviously a challenging time and situation you never want to happen. We don't want it to ever happen again, but just do appreciate everybody's support on all levels.
Well, thank you, Eric and Rebecca. And it also sounds like we're much better prepared if it happens again, too.
Absolutely.
I know, Jim. God forbid.
Yeah, I know.
I know, but all you can do is do your best.
I can tell you that when I know you guys had talked about the electric bill at that one well site. And it's funny because I just thought it was, it was extremely high. Well, the reasons that it's so high is there are heaters in there, not just one, like 2 or 3, and the lights that are in there, and Whitewater has to go in and use it and write their reports on a regular basis. So I still think it's something we might want to look into, but I understand why the electric bills are high at that point versus before when I didn't understand what was in the actual well house.
Are you talking at the water tower or at one of the well sites?
I forget which one was really high, and we had talked about trying to figure out why the bill was so high. And all of them, I know the water tower itself has a huge switchboard in it. It's about 7 or 8 feet tall, and if you open it up, which John opened it up so that I could see inside, it's just a full switchboard panel that is run by electricity and it goes to all the well sites, and you can see on the computer screen like which pump is running, which pump is doing what, how many gallons are going. It's a really cool system, but it is electric. So I would imagine, and that doesn't ever it's not ever turned off. So that could be one of the reasons. And then in the well sites itself, like the little pump houses, there's electricity in there. The lights are, there's lights on there in there. There are heaters in there. There's one really cool tool that is actually electric, but it shows you the pH level of the water all day long. I think it's like every 10 or 15 minutes. It looks like a ship's clock in some ways. And that's kind of why I looked at it, because I was like, that looks like it's telling me the tides, and it's not the tides. It's actually telling you the pH level in the water all the time, which is very cool. But I also think it's electric and causing the electricity to be used 24/7.
Yeah, I think the big thing though is the heaters and the buildings being uninsulated.
I agree.
Because they go up in the wintertime and there's just no, and the issue there was whether we can heat trace the pipes or insulate the building. And, if it's a matter of insulating the building, that is something that we probably could get Cape Light Compact to come in, and they've got a program. It's almost 90% that they'll cover of insulation for.
Yeah, and I think right now because of the pandemic, they're doing a lot of it for almost free.
Yeah,
so it might be
it's
something for
crazy,
you guys
so.
to look into. I don't mind looking into the Cape Wide Impact and checking to see if they would come check out the houses. Because I agree, if it was insulated, it probably would be a lot cheaper electric wise. You wouldn't need those space heaters.
I would agree as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know Well, and they might insulate and suggest changing them over to heat pumps, which would reduce because I think they're resistance heaters now. Right?
Most likely.
Yeah, and I'll reach out to them to Cape Wide tomorrow and just see if they can come check it out. And then I'll reach out to John and see if we can go again together when Cape Wide is doing it, just so I can kind of report back to you what they did, what they suggested, and all that stuff.
Yeah, that'd be great, because the initial thought was that maybe we could just heat trace the pipes, but it doesn't sound like we're going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, with all the different equipment that Rebecca spoke to there, whether, it would probably be challenging. You're going to have some degree of heat in there. So it would be worthwhile to do a couple of things. Look at insulation, and then if we're doing any air transfers via fans, sometimes those things get turned on, off. It's low dollars in case, and I can't actually picture it right now, so I apologize, but sometimes putting a timer based, and this can save a significant amount of cost throughout the year. In the summertime, you're trying to move some air through there, so you're not getting a ton of condensation built up in the summertime. In the wintertime, obviously heating it, but still allowing for some air transfer in there. So a couple of areas to look at: insulation, what kind of heaters we have, and potentially just different timers on any ventilation fans.
If there's condensation issues there too, if Cape Light comes and does an audit, they might be able to look at some other solutions for us too. Like whether it's, summer dehumidification or other, whatever else needs to happen with climate control. They have pretty good auditors, so they may have some suggestions as well.
That's a great point, Kirk, because, one thing that Rebecca had mentioned too about the control panels, and there is a lot of cool stuff going on in there, is keeping those environments and how the control panels source their air, whether it's in the room there externally, it's going to go into the life of the control panels and everything that's in there. It's drinking water, but and you're not using the sodium hypochlorite and things like that typically, so it's a less aggressive environment. Where we really run into it is on our wastewater side of our business. You can just see it destroy control panels, but in this environment, we do want to still be conscious of it.
Anything more on that?
I don't have anything from my perspective.
Okay. Are there any action items on that then? I'm trying to think if we need to do anything.
Yeah, it sounds like, Rebecca, you're going to get in touch with Cape Light.
I've already started an email.
Right.
And Rebecca and I can follow up with the Mueller rep to get things going there for a follow-up meeting.
Great. So we have a couple of contract issues that I just wanted to kind of review. The engineering contract with Environmental Partners for the work on the water main installation. The contract has been sent over to legal counsel now, so I don't know that there's anything that we need to do, but Rebecca did send it out to everybody.
Yeah.
So, you should have seen a copy of it, but I really think we should just wait until we get that back from Copeland and Page, and then we would be taking this to the select board for their off on it. So,
Yeah, makes sense.
and it's pretty much standard, pro forma kind of agreement. It was very close to what we had used with Environmental Partners back in 2013 for the work that was done on Summit Avenue, for the installation that was done there. So, and the final one is on the Masonic Lane agreement. I don't know if you had a chance to look at that. If anybody has any comments or concerns about that. That was the agreement that Richard Wilson had drafted, basically providing for the that they would be responsible for the installing the line up from Woods Lane and to the 4 properties there on Masonic that are interested in water. And the town or the Water Commission would be responsible for putting in the curb stop on Woods Lane and providing the meters for the property on Masonic. And the connection fee was essentially be waived in this case because they're paying for the installation of whether it's a 2-inch or 4-inch main.
Okay.
Do you want us to, do you want a motion to approve that agreement?
Yeah, I would like that. Just one other comment. I did talk with a representative from Masonic Hall about what their needs were. And this may also inform the decision on whether or not whether it's a 2-inch or 4-inch main. But they do not have a commercial kitchen there. They just have a regular kitchen in the building. They're not intending to put one in. They have, I believe, 2 restrooms in the building. And as you may know, that building does not get a lot of use. They have, I believe, weekly or bi-monthly meetings there, and so it's not going to be a heavy usage in terms of water for them.
The only thing that that I saw that was missing from the agreement, Jim, was from Richard's draft, is we had also talked about them signing standard terms and conditions.
Right, you mean like an easement as well?
Right. Well, it says the property owners will donate the service line to the town of Wellfleet and grant an easement to the town for maintaining the service line. So, that part's okay, but also that they're gonna, that the owners are agreeing to standard terms and conditions of water service. In other words, I was just, I was a little concerned that the agreement, I think the agreement's fine, but I was just a little concerned that it might, that it wouldn't be construed as we're going to waive water fees. It says specifically the water connection fee. But it says, Board of Water Commissioners has agreed to install at Board of Water Commissioners' expense a curb stop adjacent to the Corette's property to waive the water connection fee for the property owners and to pay for the water meters.
So maybe we can ask them to include in there that they would still be responsible for the standard fees for water usage.
Yeah, that going forward, they still have an obligation for standard fees for water usage, and any basically sign the standard terms and conditions, which I guess they have to do anyway, Rebecca. I mean, when they come in and they sign up for water service, they're going to sign the standard terms and conditions anyway.
And
So
That's correct. And I can
Yeah, so-
actually change the wording for you so that, and then just send it back to them and have it read it. In the wording, it will just say, we're responsible for all the connection fees. However, they are responsible for all water usage and service fees from here on out.
as well as any work on the water lines from the curb stops to into their buildings.
Okay, after the installation
That's
of
the standard,
service.
and that's standard term.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's why I was kind of getting to that, Jim, because I don't think we want to be any more specific than the standard terms and conditions, because there's a lot of stuff in the standard terms and conditions.
Okay, I can write that in.
But it's basically just that, and they're agreeing to, sign the standard and terms and conditions for water service in the town of Wellfleet. something simple, but just that that's their obligation.
Right. Good point.
Not a big deal. I mean, it shouldn't be a big deal, but
Okay. So you can change that, Rebecca?
Yes, I'll change that for you. I've already emailed Cape Light Compact to see if they can come out for us. And then I will go through that agreement now, and I'll reword it and send it out to you tomorrow for approval. And then once it's approved, I'll send it over to the Masonic Lane guys.
Okay.
perfect.
All right. Any other business?
Nope, you just have minutes, I think.
Yeah.
The minutes of the meeting of October 20th.
Hey, Susie.
So, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Oh, okay. No, I see. Yeah.
She's still on the phone.
Is Neil there? Neil, unmute.
Yeah, he just has to unmute himself.
I'm here.
There he is.
Can you second the minutes?
I'll second the minutes.
Hey, Ricky.
Kurt, are you, your vote on it?
Yay.
Neil?
Yay.
I am in favor of it as well. Kateri, are you vote for the minutes?
Still currently on the phone.
Okay. All right. Well, at least we have three of us, so that we'll just say that.
Okay, thanks, Susie.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Here she goes.
Kateri?
I'm sorry, I had to take a call. What was the question?
All right, we're asking whether or not you vote to approve the minutes of October.
Yeah, because I was missing for most of that call, and then what I know seems fine to me, but I can't speak to 3/4 of it.
Okay, all right. Good, all right. Thank you. No other business? Our next meeting. Okay.
Well, you can either do the 24th. Oh, that's Thanksgiving week, but it's up to you. You can either do the 24th of November or you can do December 1st.
The 24th would probably be better for me. I may have transit issues coming back after Thanksgiving.
It's fine by me.
All right. And hopefully, we don't have that many items for the agenda right now. But,
Okay,
but let's assume that it will be on the 24th.
all
I
right.
put it in.
Thanks, everybody. I felt a little snowed under with all of these contracts and things like that. It's so much out of my area of experience.
All right, okay. If there's no new business, I suggest that we adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Oh, let a jitterbug second this time.
Okay, all right. And I assume we're all in favor.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, thank you
Aye.
all. Thanks,
Thank
Eric.
you.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.